Hello everybody. This class we are discussing on the various factors in the design of controlled release drug delivery system. Hope you remember what we discussed in our last sections. In the last section we have seen what is controlled drug delivery system, what are its advantages, disadvantages, rationale for selecting the controlled release drug delivery system, and in terminology how it differs from a sustained release drug delivery system. So the general introduction on the controlled release drug delivery system we discussed in the last class. So the main purpose or the main rationale for the controlled release drug delivery system is to optimize the biopharmaceutics, pharmacokinetic and pharmacodynamic properties of a drug in such a way that its utility is maximized through reduction in the side effects as well as dose of the drug molecule. That means we need to optimize the various biopharmaceutics, kinetic and dynamic properties of the drug molecules. So this was the main rationale what we have discussed in our last class. So this section we are going to discuss on what basis we have to select the drug molecule for converting into a controlled drug delivery system. Since we have seen so many advantages of our controlled drug delivery system in the last section, also we have discussed that right now the pharmaceutical industries are focusing on converting the conventional dosage form into novel drug delivery system, considering the various advantages of the novel drug delivery system. So while converting a conventional dosage form into a novel drug delivery system, or converting a conventional dosage form into a controlled drug release system, what are the factors to be taken in consideration in regards with the drug molecule for converting into a controlled release drug delivery system? So basically we have three different factors. The first one is the biopharmaceutical characteristics of the drug. Second one is the pharmacokinetic characteristics of the drug. And the third one is the pharmacodynamic characteristics of your drug molecule. Let us see one by one. The first one is the biopharmaceutical characteristics of the drug. So we have a variety on various number of biopharmaceutical characteristics of the drug that need to be considered while designing a controlled release drug delivery system, which includes the molecular weight of the drug, the aqueous solubility of the drug, apparent partition coefficient or lipophilicity of the drug, drug PK and ionization, drug permeability, drug stability, mechanism and site of absorption, and the last one is the biopharmaceutical aspects of the route of administration. So these are some of the biopharmaceutical characteristics of a drug that we need to consider while converting this drug or while developing this drug into a controlled release drug delivery system. We will discuss all these factors one by one right now. Regarding the first one is the molecular weight of the drug. We know how the molecular weight of a drug affects our absorption. All these factors we have already studied in our biopharmaceutics in the first chapter of absorption. Now, what is the impact of molecular weight or the molecular size? As a summary, a drug with the low molecular weight is the best choice for controlled release drug delivery system. What happens to drug molecules with a higher molecular weight? Obviously, the higher with more than 600 daltons is very difficult to permeate, very difficult to absorb. So for a drug molecule, if we are administering orally, or if we are administering a controlled release drug delivery system orally in the form of a tablet, from this delivery system, the delivery system has to releases the drug molecule out, and this drug molecule has to permeate our GI membrane to reach into the systemic circulation. So what happens in relation with the molecular weight? So most of the drug molecule absorbs by passive diffusion. We have studied that is 90% of the drug absorbed by passive mechanisms. Or partially some of the drug molecules absorbed by pore transport mechanisms also. So what happens in this case? If the molecular weight is higher, it cannot permeate the biological membrane. Thus, drugs with molecular weight less than 600 daltons are a good choice for converting to a controlled release drug delivery system, whereas those with more than 600 daltons, it will be very difficult for the absorption of the drug molecules by passive mechanism unless it is having some specialized transport mechanisms. It is very difficult to pass. Thus, any of the drug molecules with a molecular size, with a very lesser molecular size, will be a good choice for developing into a controlled release drug delivery system. As well as in the second case, as you know, as the particular size or the molecular size reduces, there will be a better dissolution of the drug molecule also. That means the dissolution further helps in the absorption of your drug molecules. So a higher dissolution case is also absorbed, or the higher solubility of the drug is also absorbed as the size of the drug reduces. So in this case, the best choice of the drug is the drug with the lower molecular weight. The second one is the aqueous solubility of your drug molecules. Obviously, all the drug molecule must have aqueous solubility to convert into a drug delivery system. What is the necessity for this? Now, suppose if you are administering the drug in the form of a tablet, as a controlled release drug delivery system in the form of a tablet, from the tablet the drug has to dissolve. The drug has to dissolve in the GI fluid, either maybe in the alkaline pH or maybe in the acidic pH. So a drug molecule that having a proper aqueous solubility, either a pH dependent or a pH independent aqueous solubility, if it has a higher chances for absorption. A less soluble drug molecule will have a lesser absorption rate. So always a drug with a good aqueous solubility is the best choice for controlled release drug delivery system. A minimum 0.1 mg per ml solubility is recommended for a drug molecule to consider into the form of a controlled drug delivery system. But now, what is the choice? Like, if a drug is not soluble in water, can we make into controlled release drug delivery system? Yes, we can have further options. So if the drug is not soluble in water also, we have further options, like if it is soluble in non-aqueous solvents. So if the drug molecule is soluble in non-aqueous solvents, we can develop this drug molecule into some other control release drug delivery system, which can be administered in a different routes, like injections, like parenterals, which can be administered as intramuscular or subcutaneous. In this way it can be developed and it can be administered. So obviously, but if you consider a injection, if you compare an injection with that of an oral route of administration, the most preferred route of administration always is what? Always it is a oral dosage form than that of a parenteral dosage form. So considering this aspect, a drug molecule with a good aqueous solubility will be the best for developing into a controlled release drug delivery system. The third factor is apparent partition coefficient and lipophilicity of the drug molecule. You know what is a partition coefficient? So here in this picture, it is showing the apparatus for determining the partition coefficient. This is a separating product. So what is the definition of the partition coefficient? So it is the ratio of amount of substance present, amount of drug present in two immersible liquids. So two immersible liquids is what? It's oil as well as water. Oil and water are the two immersible liquids. An example. So it is defined as the ratio of amount of drug present in the two immersible liquids. So we have studied this lipophilicity, partition coefficient also in the chapter on the absorption. So in case of this partition coefficient, the partition coefficient directly denotes the lipophilicity of the drug molecule. As you know, our biological membranes are highly lipophilic in nature. For a drug molecule to dissolve, for a drug molecule to get into the systemic circulation, it has to dissolve in the gastric fluid. At the same time, it has to permeate the lipophilic membrane. That means the drug molecule must have both the nature of lipophilicity as well as a hydrophilicity for reaching into the systemic circulation. that we studied as an HLB scale, or the hydrophilic lipophilic balances. Yes. So the partition coefficient, like the previous factor we have seen, the aqueous solubility, like the aqueous solubility, the lipophilicity or the partition coefficient is also equally important factor in determining the control release structural system. The drug molecule must have sufficient lipophilicity, then and there only it can be absorbed, it can permeate the biological membrane, and it can reach into the systemic circulation. Thus, a lipophilic drug is a good choice for developing a controlled release drug delivery system. The next one is drug PK and ionization at the physiological pH. An ionized as well as an unionized drug. Among this, the unionized drugs are the best or highly permeated across the membrane. Ionization depends upon the pK of the drug molecule as well as the pH at the site of absorption or the site where the drug is present. That means ionization of the drug depends upon the pK and the pH at the site where the drug is present. So if the drug is converting into an ionized form, it is least absorbed, it is least permeated, whereas if the drug exists in the unionized form, it can be easily permeated the biological membranes. So this clear picture clearly denotes here a drug molecule which is ionized form, which cannot permeate the biological membrane, and it is present within the gastric fluid itself. So this is the impact of an ionization in absorption. Thus, an unionized drug is a good choice for developing a controlled release drug delivery system. The next one is the drug permeability. Obviously, the last many factors we have discussed are finally ending up with the drug permeability. A highly permeable drug is a good choice for controlled release drug delivery system. Now, we have discussed apparent partition coefficient, we have discussed ionization, we have discussed drug solubility. All these factors is directly related to permeability of the drug molecule. What will happen if the permeability is less? Obviously, the drug will not permeate, drug will not reach into the systemic circulation. So if you consider here in this biological membrane, in the intestinal side itself, we have a mucus layer, we have a water layer, and we have an epithelial layer and a basement membrane followed by a capillary. So this drug molecule has to permeate all these layers to reach into the capillary. So at the end, if the mucus layer, it is an aqueous layer, then in between the mucus layer as well as an epithelial, we have another water thin layer, that is an unstirred diffusion layer we have. So the drug must have sufficient aqueous solubility, then and there only it can permeate the mucus layer as well as the water layer. If it is less aqueous soluble, this permeation of mucus layer and the water layer act as a rate limiting step. Finally, if you consider the epithelial layer, they are of lipophilic in nature. There also the drug molecule should have the sufficient lipophilicity to process this barrier. That means what you have seen just before, like the aqueous solubility, the lipophilicity, the ionization, the molecular weight. Obviously, even the molecular weight is high, then and there also it will not permeate. So all these factors is directly focusing on the drug permeability. A highly permeable drug is a good choice for controlled release drug delivery system. Now, let us see what is just opposite is the case. If the drug is not permeable, if the drug is not permeating, what is the issue? Ultimately, it will not reach the therapeutic concentration. Suppose if the drug is less permeable, 50 mg drug here administered, and out of this 25 mg can be easily permeated, and it is having a low permeation rate. That means a 25 mg can easily be permeated, whereas a 25 mg cannot be permeated. It's an ultimate loss of the drug molecule. At the same time, it will not reach the therapeutic concentration. Now consider the case of a controlled release drug delivery system. That means in case of a controlled release drug delivery system, from the drug delivery system, the drug is releasing from the drug delivery system at a slow rate. drug is released out from the delivery system at a slow rate. Whereas in the case of the conventional drug delivery system, if the dose is 100 mg, the entire 100 mg is releasing from the delivery system in a small period of time. Whereas in the case of the 100 control release drug delivery system, out of the 100 mg dose we have maybe 1 mg. An example, 1 mg may be releasing out from the delivery system. That means out of 100 mg, the remaining 1 mg is only released, remaining 99 mg is within the delivery system. So 1 mg is released in the gastric fluids. If this 1 mg is not permeating, if the 1 mg of the drug is not having the sufficient permeation facilities, or if it is not having, if it is not soluble in water, if it is not permeating the membrane, if it is having higher molecular weight, this drug molecule will not permeate the biological membrane. So finally what happens, always the concentration, the GIT for this drug is very low, very less, and if this concentration is not permeating, means further this will be excreted or maybe metabolized in our gastric lumen itself without getting absorbed into the systemic circulation. That means if the drug is having a proper permeability, when 1 mg of drug is released from the drug delivery system, the same moment the 1 mg can be get absorbed into the systemic circulation without any delay. Thus, permeability, that means that ensures, this process ensures a continuous absorption, a continuous permeability. 1 mg is released from the delivery system, the 1 mg crosses the membrane and reaches the systemic circulation. After 1 hour, another 1 more mg is released, 1 mg has permeated the membrane and reached the systemic circulation. This should be a simultaneous process so that the amount of drug released is immediately crosses the membrane and can reach into the systemic circulation. That means it shows a higher absorption rate without any delay in the process. Okay, that is the reason the permeability of the drug is a main factor to be considered while designing the controlled release drug delivery system. The next factor is drug stability. You know very well the drug molecules, we have the gastric fluids and the intestinal fluids. They are of acidic in nature or alkalic in nature. At the same time, our intestine, which contains a variety of microflora, enzymes, gut wall enzymes present in it. So the drug molecule what is released in from the delivery system either into the stomach or into the intestinal, or means either in the small intestine or in the large intestine, it can be metabolized by the various microflora or by the various enzymes present in the intestinal lumen or in the intestinal walls. So such type of instability issues, if it is happen, means what will happen? Already a small amount of drug is released from the drug delivery system, and if the drug is highly susceptible for a metabolism, means what will happen? The released amount of drug will be immediately unstable, immediately it will be metabolized. There is no more drug molecule further available for absorption into the systemic circulation. So a drug molecule which is stable in the GI pH, which is stable in the intestinal pH, and which is stable with the gut wall and the enzymes present in the gut wall, is a much suitable for developing into a controlled release drug delivery system. I hope the point is clear for you, because if the drug is unstable, if the drug is unstable in the GI, it will be highly metabolized, it will be highly unstabilized, means there is no more drug molecule to be absorbed in the systemic circulation. That means a highly stable drug is a good choice for developing into controlled release drug delivery system. Next factor is mechanism and site of absorption. We studied the various types of mechanisms for absorption, that is your passive transport, passive diffusion, active transport, port transport, ion pair transport, then carrier mediated transport, facilitated transport system, then active transport, then carrier systems, etc. So these are some of the mechanisms what we have studied. And we also studied how these mechanisms 95% of the drug molecules is highly permeated by the passive transport mechanism. That means the passive transport is governed by the concentration gradient. So this mechanism and its site of absorption concludes in such a way that a drug molecule that absorbed by the passive mechanisms are a good choice for developing into a controlled release drug delivery system. Drug molecule that absorbs by the passive mechanism other than carrier mediated transport system. So what happens? What is the speciality of the carrier mediated transport system? That means the drug molecule has been permeated with the help of certain carriers present in the biological membrane, and there is an absorption window. What is maybe absorption window? Absorption window is the area in our biological membrane where there is large amount of carriers present. So these carriers are not equally present throughout our GI membrane. If you consider the stomach or the small intestinal walls and the large intestinal walls, the carriers are not equally distributed. There are some areas in the GIT where the carriers are abundantly present, that we call it as the absorption window. So absorption window is not there in the entire GIT. Absorption window is there only in a particular part of our intestine. So as you know, a drug molecule, if you design a control release drug delivery system, that may releases the drug molecule. For example, if you develop a CRDDS to deliver the drug molecule for a period of 24 hours. So you assume it for a delivering drug molecule into a 24-hour duration. That means for this 24 hour, it should have a transit time, or it should present in our body for a 24-hour duration. Morning 10 o'clock, if you administer till next day 10 o'clock, it has to release the drug molecule slowly. So until this 24 hours, it may present in our stomach, small intestine and in the large intestine. That means there is the transportation of the drug molecule, there is a transportation of the delivery system from our stomach through the small intestine into the large intestine. So after the 24 hours period of time, the drug delivery system might be surely in the rectal portion of the large intestine, it may be present. So what is the drawback in this system? Suppose if the drug molecule, if the absorption window is present in the jejunum, is present only in the jejunum portion, what will happen? The drug what is released in the initial in the stomach or in the initial portion of the remaining portion of the small intestine, it will not be absorbed. That means absorption window is present only in a particular part of our intestine. The drug what is released in the remaining part of the intestine or in the stomach will not be absorbed into the systemic circulation. So this is one of the drawback of the carrier mediated transport system. So thus a drug molecule which can be permeated, which can be absorbed by passive mechanism is a good choice for developing into a control release drug delivery system, whereas the drug molecule that is absorbed by carrier mediated transport system is not a good choice for developing into a control release drug delivery system. The next one is the biopharmaceutical aspects or the route of administration. The biopharmaceutical aspects of the route of administration. So there are variety of routes of administration of any of the drug molecule, like our oral, intramuscular, transdermal, and we have the parenteral routes. We have buccal, sublingual, rectal, nasal, ocular, pulmonary, vaginal, intrauterine, intranasal. So many different routes of administrations we have. But through all this route can we administer a controlled release drug delivery system? That is the question now. So even though we have a variety of drug delivery, variety of route of administration, we cannot administer a controlled release drug delivery system through all these routes. First of all, you have to keep in mind that for a controlled release drug delivery system, it has to release the drug minimum either for a 12-hour or for a 24-hour. That means it should release the drug molecule only within 12 hours. it should release the drug molecule only within 24 hours, either of this, or it may be beyond 24 hours also, right? That means if it is drug molecule is programmed to deliver the drug for a 12 hours period, means only within the 12-hour period only the drug delivery system has to release the entire amount of drug. That means for this 12-hour duration, the drug delivery system should be intact. If the delivery system has broken, there is no purpose. If the delivery system has collapsed, the entire drug will be released out of the delivery system. That means the entire set duration, what is the target duration? If it is 12 hours, means for this 12 hours the drug delivery system must be intact. Suppose if you administer the drug molecule as a sublingual, is it possible to keep the tablet in our sublingual for 12 hours continuously? No. Sublingual is a choice or route of administration for any of the drug molecule that is having a high first pass metabolism. To bypass the metabolism, we can keep the tablet in a sublingual part. But even if you consider sublingual and buccal and all, it is not possible for us to keep the tablet in our mouth for a 12-hour period of time. Rectal, if you consider, it is not possible to keep the tablet in the rectal route for 12 hours period of time. Nasal, it is not possible. Ocular, it is not possible to keep a drop of medicine in our eye for a 12-hour duration. Pulmonary, vaginal. So these routes having some deficiencies to keep, some drawbacks to keep the drug molecules, to keep the delivery system within the route for a longer period of time. Thus, the highly preferred route of control release drug delivery systems are: first one is the oral route, second one is the intramuscular route, and the third one is the transdermal route. So oral route is the highly preferred route which we can deliver the drug molecule for at least from 12 to 24 hours maximum. Beyond 24 hours also it is not possible because of the transit time, because by this time the drug will be excreted out, or after 24 hours the delivery system might be excreted out through the rectal route. So up to a maximum of 24 hours we can have a release through the oral route of administration. Now the second option is intramuscular or a subcutaneous route of administration. Suppose this route is much advantageous, or it is much better than that of our oral route for a control release drug delivery system. But the main advantages of drug delivery system for the oral route means we can have a dose of maximum of 1 gram. Up to 1 gram of drug can be administered by an oral route, but it can get the control release only up to 24 hours. This opposite is the case of intramuscular or subcutaneous route. The dose strength will be very, very less, because if you are administering subcutaneously, that will be in the form of a liquid form, it will be in the form of viscous liquids. So maximum of 2 ml can be administered through intramuscular or subcutaneous route, maximum of 2 ml. But again the advantages of this route is that the drug release can be controlled even up to 12 months also, where the oral route is restricted only up to 24 hours. The intramuscular subcutaneous route can control the release of drug for 12 months. That means if we administer a highly thick viscous liquid intramuscularly, means the drug solution is present in the intramuscular route. This acts as a depot. Even though it is a liquid form, once it reaches into the muscular, once it reaches into the muscles, or once it reaches subcutaneously, based upon the pH of our body, the solution becomes a viscous. The solution converting a liquid form is converting into a semi-solid form, and this semi-solid form will remain in our muscles for a longer duration. So this acts as a depot, this acts as a reservoir. From this reservoir system, the drug will be slowly released to our systemic circulation, and this can release even up to a 12 months duration also. So if you are considering an oral route with an intramuscular, to extend the period, for a longer time, our intramuscular route is a good choice. Intramuscular route is a good choice for developing drug, uh, developing a controlled release drug delivery system. The next one is the transdermal route. Again, the transdermal route can also be opted for a longer duration, but this route is again highly preferred for a drug molecule which is showing the extensive first pass metabolism. You know what is a first pass metabolism means. First pass metabolism is nothing but the pre-systemic metabolism, or the metabolism of a drug before reaching into the systemic circulation. This metabolism happens in our small intestine, happens in the gut wall, happens in the hepatic portal vein, and happens in the liver. So once the drug molecule permeate, release in the intestine, permeate the gut walls, enter into the hepatic portal vein. From hepatic portal vein it enters into the liver. So from the liver again it enters into the systemic circulation. So over this route, from the moment of drug from the gastric intestinal into the systemic circulation, there are the various sources where areas where it can undergo metabolism by the enzymes. It can metabolize in the gut wall, it can metabolize in the portal vein, it can metabolize in the liver. So this metabolism can reduces the amount of drug reached in the systemic circulation. That means if the pre-systemic metabolism of a drug before the drug reaching into the systemic circulation, if pre-systemic metabolism is high, what does it indicate? More amount of drug is metabolized before reaching into the systemic circulation, and only a less amount can enter into the systemic circulation. So that is what the pre-systemic metabolism says. So a drug molecule with a high pre-systemic metabolism is very large dose we may have to administer. Even if you administer large dose also, only a less dose will reach into the systemic circulation. Already we are reducing the dosing frequency by developing into a control release drug delivery system. So if you are developing a control release drug delivery system with a 1 gram strength of a drug molecule, and if the particular drug is highly pre-systemically metabolized, means only a less amount of drug will be reaching into the systemic circulation, which may not be sufficient to meet the therapeutic requirements. So especially for these type of drug molecules to develop into a control release drug delivery systems, we can opt the transdermal route of administration. This type of transdermal route of administration will reduces the pre-systemic metabolism, and these drug molecules are directly entering into the systemic circulation by crossing the epidermal layers of our skin, and is directly entering into the systemic circulation through the capillary walls and into the veins. So this way it can easily bypasses the first pass metabolism. So thus drug molecules with high first pass metabolism can be converted to a control release drug delivery system by developing it into administering it into a transdermal route of administration. The next one is the pharmacokinetic characteristics of a drug in the design of a controlled release drug delivery system. The pharmacokinetic characteristics of a drug include absorption rate, elimination half-life, rate of metabolism, dosage form index. So these are the 4 different pharmacokinetic characteristics of a drug to be considered in the design of a controlled release drug delivery system. First of all, absorption rate. As a conclusion, the absorption rate, the rate at which the absorption happens, for a drug molecule to be developed into a controlled release drug delivery system, it should have a good absorption rate. Good absorption rate means what? The rate at which the drug molecule releases from the delivery system should be equal to the rate of absorption. The point is this: the rate at which the drug delivery system, the rate at which the drug releases from the delivery system should be equal to that of the rate of absorption, or the rate of absorption should be higher than that of the release rate from the drug delivery system. What is meant by the release rate from the drug delivery system? That means, we are developing a delivery system. The drug molecule has to slowly released from the delivery system. The drug molecule, if it is a tablet, means from the tablet it has to release outside into the GI fluid. So at what rate the drug is coming out from the delivery system, it should have a higher, either at the same rate the drug should be absorbed, or it should have a higher absorption rate. If the rate of absorption is lesser, what will happen? Suppose the release rate is 5 microgram per hour, and the rate of absorption is also 5 microgram per hour, means the amount released equal to rate of absorption. Rate of release equal to rate of absorption. 5 microgram release, 5 microgram absorbed. Next hour 5 microgram released, 5 microgram absorbed. So the release rate becomes equal to rate of absorption. Now consider the second case. The rate of absorption is higher than that of rate of release. That means rate of release is 5 microgram, rate of absorption is 10 microgram. Rate of release is 5 microgram, rate of absorption is 10 microgram. 5 microgram is released, 10 microgram. There is possibility for the stomach to take up 10 microgram, or there is possibility 10 microgram can be absorbed for this particular drug molecule. So always the 5 microgram is released, there is facility for absorbing 10 microgram. Means what does it means? The entire microgram of drug, entire amount of drug what is released is fully absorbed. Whereas if the rate of absorption is only 2 microgram per hour, what will happen? 5 microgram per hour is releasing, 2 microgram is only absorbing. There will be accumulation of drug in the GI fluid, there will be accumulation of drug in the site of absorption, which will affect the therapeutic activity. Moreover, the drug will be excreted, the loss of drug can happen. Thus the release rate of the drug must be less than that of the rate of absorption. I hope the point is clear. So the drug should be developed in such a way that it should have a lesser release rate than that of your rate of absorption of the particular drug molecule. So if it is absorbing at a 5 microgram per hour, means the maximum the drug molecule has to release at a rate of 5 microgram per hour. If it goes beyond that, it is not a good choice of selection. Okay, the second one is elimination half-life. You know what is elimination half-life? That means the time taken for the drug molecule to eliminate half the amount of drug molecule to eliminate from our body. Now half-life, the drug molecule, if you can consider drug molecule with a very less half-life, that means with a less than 1 hour, then drug molecule with a half-life of 2 to 4 hours, and a drug molecule with a half-life of more than 4 hours. Okay, so half-life of less than 1 hour, half-life of 2 to 4 hours, and half-life of more than 4 hours. Let us see what will happen in all these situations. If the half-life of the drug is more than 4 hours, if the half-life of the drug is more than 4 hours, say for example it is having 6 hours half-life, that means only within 6 hour duration the drug is eliminating half the portion. If 100 mg drug is administered, only after 6 hours the 100 mg is reducing to 50 mg. That means up to 6 hours only 50 mg is eliminated and remaining 50 mg is present in our body. That means any of the drug molecule which is having a higher half-life, higher elimination half-life, need not to be developed into a control release drug delivery system. Why? Means if it is having a higher half-life, the molecule itself has a tendency to reduces the dose of frequency of administration. Then for example, if the drug is having 6 hours half-life, means no need to administer in every 4 hours, no need to administer in every 6 hours also. So the frequency of administration can be reduced. If the drug is having a half-life of 12 hours, No need to administer every 4 hours. It may need to be administered maybe once a day or maybe twice daily maximum. So no need to want to go for a frequent administration. That means the elimination half-life is one of the main important factor. One main important factor to be considered for the selection of into a controlled release structural system. First of all, the drug molecule with a longer half-life is not a good choice for developing into controlled release drug delivery system. That is, it's no need of developing it. Second option is any drug molecule with a lesser half-life. So what will happen if the drug molecule is having a half-life of less than 1 hour? So half-life of less than 1 hour means, if it is 1 hour means within 1 hour the complete amount of 50% of drug what is administered is eliminated. If it is less than 1 hour, absolutely the frequency of administration will be very high. If the frequency of administration is very high, it can be developed into controlled release dosage form, but the dose to be developed, the dose to be accumulated in the delivery system will be much higher. That means we may have to take huge dose. Suppose if we consider in this way, the drug is having a half-life of 1 hour. Thus, to get a therapeutic efficiency for 24 hours, you may have to administer the drug for around 12 hours. Assume in this way, you may have to administer. Just an example, okay? That means it is having a half-life of 1 hour. 100 mg is administered. After 1 hour, it is changing to 50. In the next hour, it is changing to 25. That means every 2 hours, you have to take a second dose. If you are taking every 2 hours as a second dose, in a day you have to take 12 doses. 12 doses every day. 12 doses every day. If the dose is 100 mg, that means you have to take 1,200 mg totally. The dose is 100 mg, you have to take 1,200 mg. Suppose if the dose is 500 mg, you may have to take around 6 grams. That means it is not possible to incorporate 6 grams of drug molecule in a single delivery system. It is impossible to develop in such a way, and it is not possible for us to swallow that such a big tablet also. That means if the drug molecules with a shorter half-life can be a choice for developing into a controlled release structural system, but the dose strength will be very high. That is one of the main drawback for this type of drug delivery system. So the best choice for developing a drug into controlled release structural system is it should have a half-life of 2 to 4 hours. So any of the drug molecule with a half-life of 2 to 4 hours is a good choice for developing into a controlled release structural system. So if you consider these examples what I given, that is acetaminophen, which is having a dose range of 500 to 1000 every 4 hours, which is having a half-life of 2 to 4 hours, whereas naproxen is a half-life of 13 hours. No need to develop this drug into a controlled release structural system, because the drug itself is having the tendency to reduce the frequency of administration. Further, no need of developing into a controlled release structural system. That means the elimination half-life is one of the first and preliminary and the main important factor to be considered while developing or while converting into a controlled release drug delivery system. The next one is the rate of metabolism. We have discussed the pre-systemic metabolism. Same way, metabolism, that happens in our liver. Liver is the heart of metabolism. Any drug molecule what is administering or any of the exogenous substances can be metabolized in our liver. So during the continuous circulation of drug molecule across the liver, it slowly the liver metabolizes and it's eliminating out of the body. What will happen if the drug is highly metabolized? And what will happen if the drug is poorly metabolized? It is directly linked with your elimination half-life. Okay, if the rate of metabolism is very slow, that means the drug will having a higher half-life. Very less metabolism, that means it is not metabolizing, it is metabolizing only at a very less rate. If it is metabolizing at a less rate, means it remains in the body for a longer period of time. If it remains in the body for a longer period of time, what does it indicate? It's having a higher half-life. If opposite is the case, the drug is having higher metabolism, what will happen? If the drug is highly metabolized, 100 mg drug is administered, within 1 hour 50 mg is administered. That means it is having a very shorter half-life. So the half-life is based upon, or half-life is determined based upon the metabolism. Absolutely, our previous point and this point is directly same. But we can consider any of the drug molecule which is highly or extensively metabolized is not a good choice for developing into a control release structural system. At the same time, drug is least metabolized is also not a good choice for developing into a control release drug delivery system. The next one is the dosage form index. So dosage form index may be a new term for you. So it is the ratio of CSS max and CSS minimum. You know what is CSS max and CSS minimum. So for a multiple dosing administration, if the drug is administered in the multiple dosing, after administering for 6 to 7 half-life, it attains a steady state concentration. That we denote it as CSS, steady state concentration. So for an orally administered drug molecule, the steady state concentration can be 2. That is, it can be a maximum steady state concentration and a minimum steady state concentration. That means the steady state concentration will be within this range of maximum to minimum. Whereas in the case of IV infusion, we got a purely single steady state concentration. In case of an orally administration, the steady state concentration will be in the range maybe 10 to 20 or 15 to 20 or 65 to 70. This range it may be vary. So that is the speciality of the steady state concentration. Now what is mean by dosage form index? It is a ratio of CSS max and CSS minimum. Simple thing. So dosage form index is defined as the ratio of CSS max to that of the CSS minimum. So what is the importance of designing this dosage form index? So the dosage form index must be nearer to 1. It will not be 1 at all, because 1 means both the CSS maximum and CSS minimum should be same. It is not possible to have a dosage form index as 1, but a dosage form index nearer to 1 is a good choice for developing into control release structural system. Suppose the drug CSS maximum is 1000 and CSS minima is 100. CSS maximum is 1000, CSS minima is 100. That means maximum it goes up to 1000, minimum it comes to 100. The ratio is 10. Whereas the CSS maxima is 150, CSS minima is 100, the ratio is 1.5. So such type of drug molecule where with the less or the value nearer to 1, the dosage form index nearer to 1, is a good choice for developing into a control release drug delivery system. Is a good choice for developing into control release drug delivery system. The last one is the pharmacodynamic characteristics of the drug in the design of control release drug delivery system. Pharmacodynamic characteristics of a drug in the design of a control release drug delivery system. So we have the 4 different factors, that is drug dose, therapeutic range, therapeutic index, plasma concentration response relationship. Drug dose. First thing is the drug dose. A maximum drug dose can incorporated in a controlled release structural system is 1 gram. Beyond 1 gram, it is very difficult to incorporate. Second thing, it is very difficult to administer also. So a maximum strength should be of 1 gram. The second thing is the therapeutic range. We know, what is the therapeutic range means. So it is the difference between the maximum safe concentration and the minimum effective concentration, or maximum tolerable concentration and the minimum effective concentration. So it is the range between the minimum effective concentration and the maximum safe concentration, that we call it as the therapeutic range. A drug with a wide therapeutic range is a good choice for controlled release drug delivery system. That means it should have a wide range. If it is narrow therapeutic range is not a good choice for developing into controlled release drug delivery system. Wide range, the maximum safe concentration is 1000 and the minimum effective concentration is 200. That means from 200 to 1000, such a range is there. So in this range, it is safe to administer, or it is safe to develop into a controlled release structural system. But if the therapeutic range is very narrow, it is not safe to develop into a controlled release structural system. What is the issue? Suppose if the range is narrow, we are developing a controlled release structural system. We are administering this controlled release structural system. What will happen? If there is a damage, or if there is a sudden release of the drug molecule, it will cross the therapeutic range. It will go beyond the maximum safe concentration. That may be toxic to the body. So, but if it is having a wide range, if there is a pulsatile release, if there is an immediate release of the drug molecule from the delivery system also, it may remain within the therapeutic range without going beyond the maximum safe concentration. So always try to keep the drug molecule with wide therapeutic range into a controlled release drug delivery system. The next one is the therapeutic index. That also you are very much familiar. That is, it is a ratio of minimum effective concentration to the maximum safe concentration. So a wide therapeutic index is also again a good choice for developing into a controlled release drug delivery system. And the next one is plasma concentration response relationship. So there are some drug molecules whose pharmacological activity is independent on the concentration of the drug molecules. That means the pharmacological activity is independent on the concentration of the drug molecule. Usually there is a relationship between the plasma drug concentration and the response. You learn in the pharmacology. There is a concentration response curve you have developed, and you found there is a proportional or a semi-proportional relationship between the dose as well as the responses. Usually in all the drug molecule, the response is dependent on the pharmacological response is dependent on the concentration of the drug. But certain drug molecule, like example is reserpine, the drug molecule whose pharmacological activity is independent on the concentration. That means the concentration of the drug do not have the effect on the pharmacological activity. It is purely independent on the concentration of the drug. So these type of drug molecules are not a good choice for developing into a controlled release drug delivery systems. So these are the various factors to be considered in developing a controlled release drug delivery system. So here we summarize all the factors. The biopharmaceutical factors, which include the molecular size should be less than 600 daltons. The aqueous solubility should be more than 0.1 mg per ml. Partition coefficient should be in a range of 1 to 2. Dissociation constant pKa for acid drug molecule should be greater than 2.5 and for basic drug should be less than pKa less than where they exist in the unionized forms, and ionization of the physiological pH should not be more than 95%. That means if it is more than 95% unionized, it is impossible for the drug molecule to get into the systemic circulation. So at least 5% of the drug should be in the unionized form. Stability in the GI, that is stable at both the gastric as well as intestinal pH. Absorption mechanism passive, not through the absorption window. Absorption window, that is carrier mediated transport happens to the absorption window, so maximum it should be passive transport. And the various pharmacokinetic parameters like absorption rate constant should be high, elimination half-life T half should be 2 to 6 hours, and metabolism rate should not be too high, and dosage form index should be near to 1. And the various pharmacodynamic properties include dose should be maximum of 1 gram, and the therapeutic range should be wide, and the therapeutic index should be wide, and the pharmacokinetic dynamic relationship should be good. That means it should have a proper constant dose response curve. Dose response curve should have a proper relationship. So these are the various factors to be considered in developing a drug delivery system. So I hope the sections are useful for you and it is clear for you. Okay, thank you so much for the patient listening. Okay, thank you, bye.